What's up, everybody? Just want to take a quick second and let people know that I am self-supported. I now put all of my episodes on Substack for paid subscribers. I put them up early, and then 24 hours later, I release them to the public on all my platforms. I also have Venmo, PayPal, Cash App, Buy Me a Coffee, Zelle, a PO Box, and I don't think Locals, Patreon. And all of the links are in the show notes of every single episode I put out. So look forward to continuing to provide great conversations. And thank you all for your continued support. Mario, I must admit, I miss seeing your dog behind you. I mean, I know the pillow is, it's not bad to look at, but I like seeing the dog lean up against the pillow.
Yeah, he's going out today. Yeah, I miss him already, but he'll be back soon.
It's I have to ask you because you do your own show, which I'll put in the notes here when I publish this. But you do your own show every day. What has your schedule been like, keeping up with everything?
Yeah, I definitely have been keeping up a lot more with what's going on geopolitically. I usually just follow the markets and what's going on with stocks, bonds, and currencies and precious metals. But I've been watching a lot of YouTube, like people like the Duran, Judge Napolitano, Danny Haifong, only because, Scott Ritter because they seem to be reporting, what's really going on vis-a-vis Iran, Israel, and the U.S. I don't watch really the mainstream media. I don't have a TV, but I can imagine, sometimes when I post stuff about this war and some of the replies I get, it's almost like I got a reply yesterday because I replied to a comment and then someone said, "Oh, you're losing all your credibility, Mario," just because I criticized what Trump said, and but yeah, I'm following a lot more what's going on geopolitically because I think if you follow just the White House, what they're saying, what let's say Israel's saying, what the mainstream media in the UK is saying. Um, you'd think that Iran would be almost gone and that the US and Israel are winning really easily, and I don't think they are. So, yeah, but everything changes really quickly, like you said. Like yesterday, I was following, I'm a lot more on X these days, just following the feed. And I saw also from my trading system, I get a feed of news, and I saw when Trump came out and said, the war is almost over, or nearly over, or something to that effect. And that's something that has been out there. People are saying, even if it doesn't go well, he's gonna like just say, "Oh, we've won," But I'm not sure the Iranians are gonna play ball. I think they're in it for the long haul, and they have nothing to lose, really. Yeah, they're fighting for survival.
This episode is brought to you by Vaulted. Launched by McIlvaney Financial Group, with Vaulted, I literally just tap a button and boom, I own physical gold stored in a professional vault. Vaulted is currently giving away $30,000 in real gold to one randomly selected winner. I feel like not enough people know about this. All you have to do to enter is follow Vaulted app on Instagram, tag a friend on their giveaway post. Each tag counts as an entry. The winner will be selected on March 12th. This is the only time tagging your friends in a giveaway might actually pay off because someone is about to win $30,000 in gold. I have Larry Johnson coming on later today, who's, he's a regular on Judge Napolitano. And then tomorrow, if you don't follow him, Kevork Almassian, who hosts a show called Syriana Analysis. And then I have Colonel Larry Wilkerson coming on Friday. And
Yeah, I've listened to those too, and yeah, it's really good to listen to them because they were part of the military, and they're saying, It's really refreshing to listen to them. No wonder they're retired.
Yeah, and I've admitted this on here several times, but I'll admit it again to you, Mario, because you haven't heard it. But you know, I did not, excuse me, I did not think that they would go through with this military action. In hindsight, I look at it, it makes sense that it happened. Not, I mean, nothing makes sense, but in the order of everything, it makes sense. Going all the way back to October 7th. Then you had Lebanon and Hezbollah with the pagers. You had, I think, was it Qatar, right? The attempted assassination in Qatar, or I'm getting that wrong, but whatever the Israeli bombs in Qatar, Syria, the collapse of Syria, and now this. So when I heard the same thing you did yesterday, and that the war is almost over, or I how could they have started this with the intent to end it in 10 days or 11 days? I think we're on 12 days now, but
Yeah.
I can't see it.
Well, I think I don't know. The impression people got right in the beginning was that Trump Trump thought that's the impression because I don't know if he said it, but the impression is that he'd decapitate the regime. Get literally decapitate. The Ayatollah, the late Ayatollah, and then everything would collapse in Iran, and it didn't. So I think it's dragging on longer than they thought. But like you, it's been many, many, many years that they keep saying they're going to invade Iran, and they never do. So now that they've actually done it, yeah, it's a bit surprising. But there is that interview that General Wesley Clark did. I think it was on Democracy Now! Or something like back in 2007, and he gave the playbook that they had after 9/11 that they would invade 7 countries in 5 years, and Iran was one of them. But it's taken a lot longer, but I think they're still determined to do it. And But I think Mike, what's happened is that there's been some unintended consequences, and I spoke about that in today's video that I made earlier today, that the countries in the Gulf, like Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, Bahrain, and Kuwait, they've been let down, so to speak, because they always thought that they would be protected by the U.S. That was part of that petrodollar deal, right? You buy our treasuries and we'll protect you militarily. And that hasn't happened. And they weren't even told that the U.S. was going to go ahead with Israel and bomb Iran. And some people might say, well, why do they need to tell these people? Well, because they're part of this deal. U.S. has got a lot of forces there trying, and the U.S. should know at least that if you attack Iran like that, they're gonna fire back at all the U.S. Assets, military assets, and other assets in that region. And yeah, I think that's backfired on the US. But as for how long this war is going to last, I don't know. Some people think it could last 2 to 3 years. People like Martin Armstrong, who looks at cycles, apparently that's what his Socrates system, I think is called, is telling him.
Yeah, I had Martin on last week, and we were talking about that. And yeah, actually, it was the first interview he did when this whole thing started. So yeah, he envisioned a minimum of the rest of the year, and again, Mario, I just now that they've moved they crossed that barrier. You have to believe that they do some type of war games on all this stuff, and knowing that even taking out the Ayatollah was not going to decapitate the regime. And the other thing too, with the Ayatollah being killed, he was what 86 years old. How effective is somebody at 86 anymore running a whole country? How much
Yeah,
decision making are they actually doing?
yeah. I know, and I mean, I know. I'm not bragging or anything, but I have my degree at university was international relations with economics. So I know a bit about what is going on in the world, even though I cover more economics. But I never knew that the Ayatollah was actually the head of the whole Shia church. Um, no, not just for Iran. He's like a pope for other Shiite Muslims. And yeah, and I don't think President Trump and the people who advise him realize that. They just thought they're killing the head of Iran, but he's more than that. And I think it's gonna backfire. Um, and like you said, it's the old saying, the king is dead, long live the king. That's the same thing. And worse is that they got his son. And I think when they bombed Tehran or Iran the first day and killed his dad, they also killed his wife and his daughter, this guy who is now the Ayatollah. And from what I hear is that the dead Ayatollah, he had a fatwa against having nuclear weapons. So he was actually not that radical. But now that the US and Iran have really gone all out in bombing and they've admitted they want, to really decapitate and change the way Iran is run. I think I wouldn't be surprised if the new regime uh, in Iran, the new people in charge now, would want to have a nuclear weapon because we heard from the foreign minister of Oman that the Iranians had agreed to like not have any uranium. I don't understand too much about weapons and nuclear weapons, but basically they had agreed not to have the enriched uranium. So basically, they said, yeah, we're fine. We won't have a nuclear weapon. We have a nuclear program for energy. But then, and that was during the negotiation. But then the U.S. and well, Israel, and started bombing. I remember on the 28th of February, it was when they started. It was Israel who started first, and then the U.S. had to go because the U.S. knew that once the Israelis would start bombing Iran, Iran would start bombing all the U.S. assets in the Middle East. So they were uh, like the Israelis forced the Americans to, you know, get involved as well. And yeah, it's unfortunate because yeah, we've been hearing from like Netanyahu for like a quarter of a century. Oh, Iran could have a nuclear weapon next week. It's the old. And I don't think they were really a threat, at least not to the United States. They aren't a threat. And, Trump was supposed to be America first, not other countries first.
Yeah, that was what I was going to ask you is, you've been covering this and following it longer than I have. How long have you heard about this nuclear weapon? Iran is imminent. They're so close to getting a nuclear weapon. How long have you been hearing this story for?
Oh yeah, I think well over like 20 years, I think Netanyahu I think he's talked to Congress many times, and warned about it. He even in the UN, he went up to the UN in New York and he had a drawing of a bomb and on the map of Iran. That was, I don't know how long ago that was. It's over 10 years ago, I think. It was right after 9/11.
Well, and with that as well, and this is the other thing. Now that line has been crossed, these people hate each other, Mario. I mean, that's never going to change, and they've hated each other for thousands of years. And how can things go back to the way they were before this? I
Yeah.
don't see it.
Well, and the other thing is the Shia Muslims, which Iran is mostly Shia, and the Sunnis, they hate each other as well. But I actually think what the U.S. and Israel have done have actually brought them back, brought them together a bit, and that's probably not good for the US or Israel. But like you said, yeah, that part of the world, especially after 1948, has been like I remember when I was a little kid in the 70s, you'd hear about this, and I even remember thinking, are these people always seem to be fighting each other? Why can't they like have peace? And here we are, like almost 50 years later, and it's still the same. Yeah, so it is worrying. I think actually, yeah, it's weird to say this, but I think the adults in the room are going to be the Russians and the Chinese. They're the only ones who can kind of keep the peace in that region because I think the Americans, unfortunately, have proven that they can't.
Well, and also with this, this is so weird because Sunday night you saw the oil, the futures skyrocket, and then I wake up in the morning because Arizona just moved back to Pacific time, so the market's open really early here, and it was like $100 a barrel, and then I didn't even look before we started today, but it was in the 80s at one point this morning.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, we haven't changed our clocks yet. So like we're only 4 hours ahead of Eastern time. So yeah, I remember Sunday crude, WTI and Brent, they both got up to like 116 bucks, and then they did come off during the day, and then yesterday just before the U.S. markets closed, which is like 4 p.m. They close at 4 p.m. New York time at 3:30. That's when Trump came out, and said that the war is almost over. We're very near, something like to that effect. And that really got the oil price down. Right now, Mike, Brent is at 87.30, so it's still quite high, and so is WTI at 83. But those comments by Trump definitely help oil come down and the stock market go back up. But I think oil, the technical long-term picture looks very bullish for oil. So I don't think we've seen the last of it in terms of upside for oil. And yeah, I don't think. And then after the markets closed, Trump came out and said, "Well, we're going to relent until we beat Iran." And I thought, well, which one is it? You just said before the market closed that we've beaten them. And it's almost finished. So I don't know what to believe really. It's hard.
Well, right, and this is the other thing I keep finding myself when I'm having conversations with people offline, and they'll say, "Oh, this happened." I'm like, "Well, how do you know?" I don't know. I'm not there. I'm not there to see any of this. You could show me a burning building, and I even referenced, you could show me a burning building in my hometown of Northeast Ohio, unless I could see the street. A lot of the houses there, they look the same in that whole region. I would have no idea. And it could have been from a year ago and I wouldn't know. So
That's right.
the information that we're in now with social media, it's like it's unbelievable. And I don't know. I mean, I've tried the best I can to decipher, but it's hard.
Yeah, no, you see, there's a lot of AI stuff, a lot of bots. It's hard to know what to believe on both sides, to be honest. Not, it's not, or on all three sides, because you have the Israelis, the Americans, and the Iranians. So, but I think the longer it goes, this conflict, it means that the Iranians are doing better than I think the US and Israel expected because they expected to roll over them really quickly. But from what I hear from some of the guests that you've said you've had, like Larry Johnson, Colonel Wilkerson, Scott Ritter, Iran has been preparing for this for 20 years. And I think U.S. intelligence and military know about this. They can't not know that Iran has been preparing for this. But I think the reason why they still went ahead with this is because Israel is forcing the issue, unfortunately, and some people will speculate is because of that file, that is hanging over everything.
Have you been following Professor Zhang at all out of Beijing?
Oh yeah, that guy. Yeah, sometimes I listen to him. He's interesting.
Did you hear what he said about all this? He did he did a few interviews over the last few days, but I watched this one on Dialogue Works. He just put up another on his own channel earlier today. So it's so hard to keep up with all the content now, right? I mean, but he was talking about that the United States entered this. I don't know if you saw this, but they entered into the war with the intent of losing. That the ground troops, it's inevitable, and this will lead to them getting kicked out of the Middle East. And next will be Turkey, because Turkey is looked at as a viable threat. And then he went as far as to say, I had never heard this before. So
What do you mean? What do you mean next will be Turkey? Like
after Iran
Turkey?
falls, Turkey will be next.
Oh, well, yeah, that was what the former Prime Minister of Israel, is it Naftali Bennett? He said that actually.
Oh,
Turkey is next. But so why would I guess it would be a way for the U.S. to get out of the Middle East without humiliating itself, I guess, not just getting out with no effort. I don't know. Why
Yeah,
would they
I
do
don't, I
that?
don't, I don't, I went back and started a second time because there was so much in there and a lot of it was over my head, what he was saying, but he was, and I'm giving you top level here and I could send
Yeah,
it to you after, shoot you a DM on it if you want to watch it. But, he was referencing this is biblical and that the next step would be after Turkey, then Israel would be the lone superpower in the Middle East, but then Russia would come in and form some type of
an alliance,
alliance with Iran.
Gog and Gog and Magog,
Is that what that is?
in the Battle of Armageddon. I think that's what he might have meant.
And
Yeah,
then they would then remove Israel. Is that all part of it?
I think so.
Oh.
Yes, that's a biblical, and I think the Russians would join up with the Chinese as well. But what's happening in the Gulf countries is definitely a blow, I think, to U.S. influence there. I'm not saying the U.S. is going to leave, but I think these countries are going to turn more towards Russia and China for their defense. I think even Russia a few years ago, they signed a cooperation agreement with the Saudis. And I don't think they have anything to lose either, the Gulf countries, because they have been hit. They are, their economies have been affected. So if they, and the Americans haven't helped, granted, the Americans are helping probably more Israel. So they've realized that. But yeah, Professor Zhang, I have followed some of his videos. He does it like a lecture, doesn't it? But I haven't seen this latest one.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. It was like an hour and 25 minutes.
Yeah,
And
I think yeah. There's another another thing is that the Israel and even the Christian Zionists, what they see is the second coming of the Messiah, um, and that he would need to live in the third temple. And what's his name? Pete Hegseth believes in the third temple. He's into that stuff. But the only way to build the third temple is to take over the Aqsa Mosque, isn't it? Destroy it and build the third temple, something like that. And yeah, it's crazy stuff. Fanatical, religious people. That's not never a good combination.
sounds like an Indiana Jones movie, Mario.
Yeah.
Well, and the last thing, one other thing that sticks up when you said that Professor Zhang said was he envisioned Mossad somehow infiltrating Iranians' uh, intelligence and launching a missile to destroy what is the rock in Israel? What's the
Mm.
it's a I can blank it out the name of it, but
Yeah, I know
destroying
what
that
you mean.
rock will trigger such a collectivism, morale
Yeah,
to really accelerate the war.
yeah, yeah. Let's see. I don't know. Yeah, Foundation Stone. I don't know what it is. What is a famous rock in Jerusalem? The Dome of the Rock.
That's it.
Yeah, it's an Islamic shrine situated on the Temple Mount. Yeah, so there you go. That's where they want to build the third temple. And the thing is, yeah, the thing is weird, and I guess I'll get a lot of stick. The Christian Zionists, uh, I think their story is that yeah, the second coming, and Jesus is not supposed to, is he supposed to come back? I don't think so. What I've heard is that this Messiah will be the Antichrist, and he'll be, but so why would Christians want to help that out? But it's all very confusing, and these people really believe in this, and I think it's been a very long-term plan, centuries.
Well, and also with that, and you take all of this like with what it is, right? They're all theories, but Professor Zhang, he's in Beijing, so people push back saying this guy came out of nowhere, like other people that we talked about offline, they've just come out of nowhere and they've got these huge audiences, they've got these big YouTube channels,
Yeah,
and it makes you wonder.
yeah. Well, the people will say, well, he's CCP or whatever, Yeah, I can understand, but he's good though. He knows what he's talking about. I've seen him on like some of the YouTube channels, like with Danny Haifong and other people that have Larry Wilkerson and others on. So he seems to be have credibility with these people. But I guess you'd probably never see him on Fox News or Bloomberg TV.
What what are your thoughts then on the Strait of Hormuz, and that's another one of those things you don't know what to
Oh yeah.
believe. I will say though, what a good channel to watch for that is, and a good handle to follow on X is Sal Mercogliano. What's up with shipping is his YouTube channel. I it's funny we laugh about it now because I had him on. I mean, before all this, it was really the Houthis that blew up his channel, like just exploded it. And now when you go look at it, I mean, he gets
Yeah.
hundreds of thousands of views on his videos.
Yeah.
And we laugh because when he started it, people had said, "Who's going to want to watch a show about shipping? Who would ever want to
Yeah.
watch this?"
Yeah, because the Houthis they've kind of blocked the entrance to the Red Sea, right?
Hmm.
Where you got to go through the Suez Canal, not just for oil. And yeah, from what I've heard as well, like listening to the people who know more than I do, like the Duran and others, the Houthis really, yeah, the US was not able to get rid of the Houthis and neutralize them. So yesterday, Trump said as well, I'm going to take over the Strait of Hormuz. And I thought to myself, how are you going to do that? You couldn't even stop the Houthis. How are you going to, take control of the Strait of Hormuz? Why didn't you just do that in the first place? You know, take control of the Strait of Hormuz and you like neutralize Iran like that. I don't know. I don't think it's going to be as easy. I just think he's clutching at straws because things are not going as well as they thought it would.
Well, then the idea of the ships are turning off their transmitters or transponders. That way they're going through dark, and then they're able to come through on the other side. But then you're seeing stuff this morning where they're saying uh, very few ships are coming through. So I
Yeah.
don't.
Well, yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't followed this situation through the Strait of Hormuz that closely, but what I hear is, well, there's a lot of insurers won't insure. ships going through there, and that's no good. And President Trump said the U.S. government would insure the ships, but I'm not sure how well that's going. Uh, but I saw as well in response to what Trump said about the strait, the Iranians came out and said, um, if you're in Europe or the Middle East and you want to use the strait, we'll let you through as long as you kick out the U.S. and the Israeli ambassador from your countries. So I don't know. I mean, and I saw that Trump as well made a comment to the effect, and I think it's a true comment. You never know. That I saw that Scott Ritter had to backtrack on a supposed comment from Trump, but Trump said, um, you guys are scared. You should go through. What are you doing? But yeah, that's easier said than done. Um, but like you said, this is like a turning point, the start of this war, and it's going to change the whole landscape in the Middle East. And I think oil is going to become more valuable, and that's why I don't think the move in the price higher is finished. I guess it was a little bit of a spike that we saw over the weekend, to almost 120, and then it corrected. It's almost like what silver did, right? But the trend is still positive, and I think the same goes for oil.
This is the question. I'm glad you I'm glad you brought up silver because the question I have in my head in regards to that because the United States declared it a rare earth mineral, I believe. And now with war accelerating, you're going to need more silver in order to, make these weapons. So, to me, logically, the price has to go up. It can't stay where it's at. Am I wrong by saying that, Mario?
No, and I also think a lot of countries now want to have silver as a reserve asset, not just as an industrial mineral for munitions. Yeah, and the world is definitely getting broken up in terms of we're not, globalization is really dead. The world is split up, and it's going to be harder and harder for, let's say, the US or China or anyone to get rare minerals from other countries. So they're trying to, yeah, it's a race for rare minerals and especially silver. I think a Tomahawk missile uses 500 troy ounces of silver.
So where do you see that? Do you see a ceiling on where it can go?
Uh, I mean, I can see it go a lot higher. I think as we talk here, we're forming like a triangle in silver, and you look at the weekly long-term chart, and it's getting more and more explosive. When you look at the weekly long-term chart going back a few years, the break of 50 looks like nothing now, so I think this the ceiling is way above here. 200 is not an unrealistic level to talk about, nor even above that. So, but you need to like be patient and be tough mentally because you're gonna get a lot of like volatility. I mean, we're talking here today, and I think we're near 90, but yesterday it got below 80. So, $11 swing in the space of 24 hours. And, once you get to 200 or more, you're going to see swings of $30 a day, but you just have to sit through it.
Yeah. Would you recommend somebody buy it right now? I mean, obviously depending on their portfolio but if it was money that if you lost it, you'd be fine. Is the
I
reward worth the
mean,
risk?
I always try to buy a little bit of silver here and there. So, and I don't time it. And whenever I have spare fiat currency around in the bank. I go and buy some coins or bars. I also have the some silver miners, and hopefully I will increase my holdings in April once the tax year starts. Because here in the UK we have a tax-free investment account, and you get a limit of how much you can put every year. And I've gone through my limit this year. So after April, I'll be able to go back in there. And I will be adding on to silver miners because I think they're undervalued versus the metal. And the metal is undervalued as well, especially versus gold. I think, the gold silver ratio looks like it's ready to turn south again, which is a good thing for both silver and precious metals in general.
Well, and gold is fascinating to me because when you look at it, or when I look at it, you can't use it for anything. But yet it's held, it has been used as a store of value for, how many years? And
Mm.
so now you're seeing it, well, I think it's what, over $5,100 an ounce as we sit here today. Which for those of
We're
you,
actually
today's
5,200 now.
52. So it's March 10th at 9 a.m. Pacific time. Um, so do you put that in the same category as silver and like it has nowhere to go but up? I mean, obviously
Oh
there's
yeah,
going to be
yeah,
whiplash probably.
yeah. And you said that, it's true. Gold is not useful for much. I mean, I guess it's used as jewelry and for religious pieces and ornaments.
Teeth,
Uh,
teeth, Mario. People put a
Teeth, yeah. And it's also used for some, like the uh, the the visors or the for the helmets for the astronauts. You got a film of very thin gold, but it's one of the reasons why it has been money in the store of wealth for thousands of years is because it's not used for anything. You don't consume it. So the stock to flow ratio, which means the amount of years of production above ground is like 70 years or something. So whenever you find gold or new discoveries, it doesn't really impact the value of it because the stock to flow ratio is so big, so larger than any other commodity. So, when people say we have to use oil or something else that is consumed as money, it doesn't really work. And that's why gold has been money because it is a luxury item. People like it for some reason. It's in our DNA. And yeah, that's why it's money because it's not consumed. Silver, on the other hand, is uh, similar to gold, but it has more uses, so it is consumed. So and but it's still a good form of money. Not as good as gold, I would say.
well, and the government doesn't want those to fail. They want those to go up in value. So because of that, again, this is what my little knowledge, rational thinking here is. The government wants gold to go up. They
Now
obviously
they do. Now they do because they've got a debt problem, and if gold goes up, it means that the debt becomes worth less. You know, they'll keep telling people, oh, inflation or CPI is only at 2%, but the dollar is like, you know, the dollar is losing value. The higher gold goes, that's what it's been telling us in the last few years. And it's just like a canary in a coal mine saying, your dollar is going to buy less. And it is. Things are a lot more expensive now than they were when gold was $1,000.
well, and it also leads me to believe, I've had a few Bitcoin people on, but I feel like the same thing applies. If the government wants Bitcoin to fail, it will fail. If they want to keep it going, then they will.
Yeah, I don't think the government though has as much control over gold as they might have over Bitcoin. Yeah.
Mm. Well, I heard Catherine Austin Fitz talking about how Bitcoin was a distraction, so the banks could acquire more gold and people would be occupied by it. I'm talking to her at the end of the month, so I can't wait to ask about this. Have you heard that before?
Yeah, I mean, and if you look at the Trump administration and his son, uh, Eric, they've been involved in crypto and Bitcoin, and all the Bitcoin people were really excited last year when he was inaugurated, all the talk of Bitcoin. But if you look at Bitcoin, it's almost halved in value since then, while gold is going, go doubled. So I think it could be like a distraction because they actually, there's a lot of gold that's flowed into the U.S. since late 2024. I spoke to Josh Fair of the Scottsdale Mint, and he sees all the flows. And yes, Eric Trump is into crypto and Bitcoin, but you look at Donald Trump Jr., he's hedging by working with people like Birch Gold. So yeah, it could very well be a decoy, look over here, like a head fake, look over here while we buy all the gold, get especially the young people, stick to Bitcoin, and they still are to some extent. What about silver as well? They've missed out on silver uh, bigly, as Trump would say, I guess.
Yeah, in speaking to some young people, they love Bitcoin. You know what they love, Mario? They love Bitcoin and they love gambling. The two things. I don't know that I've ever talked to a young person they brought up gold or silver, but Bitcoin and gambling.
Yeah, I mean, I think the gambling part is a symptom of the end of the fiat currency system where it's much easier to, yeah, when the money becomes worth less and less, people start gambling because it doesn't pay to do honest day's work, right? So unfortunately, that's what it is. Same thing happened in Germany in the 1920s with their hyperinflation. There's a lot of gambling. It happens all the time. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm gonna have Catherine Austin Fitz on as well in April. That'll be good. Uh,
Is gambling is bad in the UK with all this stuff?
oh yeah, the British are the England. Well, the British are really into gambling. It's even more widespread than in the U.S. I would say they bet on everything here. Yeah.
What you got? What are you? Rugby, boxing, soccer,
Yeah, but they bet on events as well, and there's no taxation on gambling. Maybe the Labor Party has put a tax on it, but no, horses is very popular. Football, um, yeah, like for example, when the Chancellor of the Exchequer, who's like the Treasury Secretary equivalent, when he or she makes like the annual speech about the budget, people will bet on how long it will be. They'll bet on everything.
I was talking to somebody about this and about the same conversation, and they pointed something out. They're like, there was a reason at one point in the United States you could only gamble in Nevada
Like,
and
yeah, that's what
and
I
Atlantic
know,
City.
but now it's everywhere, isn't it? Because that's what I used to think. Because here in the UK, you could gamble, well, you can still gamble everywhere, but in the States, it was limited to like Las Vegas or Nevada. But now
And
it's
Atlantic
people,
City. Atlantic City was the other one.
yeah, yeah, New Jersey, yeah. But now it seems to be it's really spreading, and that's just a symptom, unfortunately. I mean, gambling is not bad as long as you know how to control yourself. But if you give up your job and stuff just to gamble, I think that's not a good thing.
Well, and also though, it's like every city. I think. I mean, every major city in the United States has casinos because the Indian reservation is what they use to
Oh
build
yeah.
them.
Mm.
But now, because of what we talked about with online and the access, like I was sitting, I told the story. I had Melody write and Ed Dowd on yesterday, and I told the story over the weekend. I was at a restaurant waiting for some friends and sitting at the bar, and this guy was next to me watching the NBA basketball, and I overheard him talking about betting, and he shared with me that he had prop bets on amount of points a certain player would play have, and you could do it on the half, you could do it on the quarter, you can do it for the whole game, rebounds, 3 point shot, all these things. And I thought to myself, I'm like, Vegas is done, done. You don't need to
Yeah.
go there anymore for anything.
Well, I've heard Las Vegas is like going downhill, isn't it? I mean, I guess it's like the floor of an exchange. It doesn't exist anymore. It's all done on screen. Yeah, and it's amazing, all the different bets. In the old days, you just bet on one thing, but now you have the same thing here. It's almost like you're a derivative. You bet on how many uh, goals or passes a soccer or football player is going to make. And then by halftime, if you've done really well, you can cut, you can you can take your profit. It's really crazy.
Well, and how deep does this thing go? Where and I haven't checked it, but college you can gamble on college sports, but can you go as far into like track and field or cross country or volleyball and some of these smaller sports? And I mean, it's a recipe for disaster. It's another barrier, line that they've crossed, and there's no coming back from it.
No. Mm.
What's at the top of your mind right now, Mario? Like we spent 45 minutes talking about different aspects, but like when you get done here, what's the first thing you're gonna go look at?
Well, I think just keep abreast of what's going on in the Middle East, and at the same time try to navigate through the fog, the fog of war, because it's really hard to know exactly what's going on. And I'm not saying this just because I'm trying to slag off Trump or Netanyahu. I think all three sides, you got to be really careful with what they're saying. But yeah, just because I think, yeah, it's a big deal. But longer term, I'm not, these are just symptoms as well of what's going on in the world. It's the end of, the fiat currency regime that we've had since 1971. And when that happens, you get all kinds of crazy things going on in the world. So longer term, I'm just trying to keep batten down the hatches, so to speak, and stay focused on doing the right thing financially and also personally and health-wise, spiritually, and that's what I think about. Trying to have discipline every day and keep going.
What role? I mean, you live in London. What role will your country play in all this?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's been a lot of criticism of the government here by Trump, of Keir Starmer, that he didn't help, didn't like go along with this attack on Iran. But I think his government, his backbenchers, his Congress, so to speak, are very much against this war. But yeah, I think Britain is going to play a smaller and smaller role in the world. It has been that way since, the end of World War II. And yeah, we're becoming less and less significant. And is that bad or good or bad? I don't know. I think it could be a good thing. Maybe focus more on this country, not like trying to boss everyone around the world. But like we said, I think the city of London, which is kind of even uh, you know, has its own structure, relative to the United Kingdom. still has a lot of financial power, I think. So we'll have to see. I mean, what happens. But yeah, it's just a gradual decline, of the British Empire, and that's going to continue.
I get screwed up when I hear City of London. Are we talking about the actual City of London or the City of London within the City of London? Isn't there
Well,
two?
actually, the city of London proper is the square mile where the financial center is. Uh, the Greater London is like a technically it's not really London. You have all the boroughs like Chelsea, Westminster, Greenwich, and they are part of Greater London. But the original London is where it's the square mile. And that's what I mean by it. The city of London, the square mile has William the Conqueror gave it like sovereignty when he came over in 1066 because he knew it was important for trade. But yeah, so that's the city of London that I mean. Yeah, that's the original one, and it's like New York, Manhattan. Really, when you think of New York, you think of Manhattan, where the Dutch settled, and then it spread out. So you call the whole thing New York.
Yeah, when I had Steve Hankey on with my friend Dave Collum, we were talking about the City of London, and and we were talking offline a little bit about it, like who controls the world, and so we asked Steve, and he said, I was always under the impression it was the New York bankers that controlled everything. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've got a book about the House of Morgan, J.P. Morgan, and I read this like 30 years ago, or yeah, maybe a little less, and even before I came to London. And I learned that JP Morgan, the bank, its origins are in London. It was a guy from Baltimore in the 1830s or 40s. He came to London to do business between the US and London. His name was George Peabody, and he didn't have any heirs. He was like a single. And he hired Junius Morgan, who was J.P. Morgan's dad, to come and work for him in London as a partner. And it grew. And um, and then eventually J.P. Morgan was in London, and then they opened an office in New York. So the origins of J.P. Morgan are actually in London. So I'm not saying London still controls everything, but I think it has some financial power. I think there's something like $50 trillion at least of offshore money in British overseas territories, or places like the Cayman Islands and Bermuda. So that the financial aspect is still pretty strong for such a little place as London.
I can't even imagine in the 1830s making the trip from Baltimore to London. I mean, how long would that take?
I don't know. I mean, by ship, yeah, a month or so. I don't know, but yeah, he's a big figure in London. George Peabody, and he left a trust called the Peabody Trust, and it's still around, and it helps people, low income people with housing. So he was quite a big part of the city of London. And yet it says here in 1837 he moved to London, where he became the most noted American banker and helped to establish the young country's international credit. Having no son of his own to whom he would pass the business, Peabody took on Junius Spencer Morgan as partner in 1854, and their joint business would go on to become the global financial services firm J.P. Morgan and Co. after Peabody's 1864 retirement. So yeah.
The last thing I want to bring up to you is, going shifting back to the Middle East. Who in their right mind would even fly there right now? Like, and what will the future of a place like Dubai and Riyadh, and from a standpoint of tourism, I mean, it has to. I wonder even just traveling international right now if this is, you know, putting a huge dent in it.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been to Dubai, but a lot of people here in the UK, they go there a lot for Christmas. It's a popular destination, and there's also 250,000 British expats, as they call it, living there. And especially in the last few years, a lot of them have gone there because of the taxes. I think there's no income tax there. The only thing is that they have is like a 9% corporation tax. I think in the short term right now, yeah, there is a lot of question about the future of Dubai and places like that, but I think they will be around still. Maybe we're jumping the gun. I'm not saying I want to go there, but they've really turned that place into it's almost like a Las Vegas of the Middle East. I mean, probably even bigger. It's a major financial hub. They've got a lot of golf courses as well, major sports. Riyadh, I'm not too sure about Riyadh. It's not that much of a tourist destination, but they have been trying to open up the Saudis, yeah, and become a little more like Dubai. I think there's a lot of competition between UAE and Dubai. It's a rivalry. But yeah, right now it's not good. But I think eventually they'll come back. Yeah, um, we'll have to see, or maybe not. If is it Dr. Zhang, the Chinese
Zhang,
guy,
Zhang.
if he's right about the end of days and Battle of Armageddon, that could be all. That could be all like academic.
Won't matter anyway then at that point, Mario, right? I
No.
mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
no matter where we're sitting. I've always
Yeah.
said if there's going to be a nuclear, if it gets to that point of nuclear, well, he actually doesn't think that any type of nuclear bomb will be used. I was watching this video this
Yeah.
morning, but if it does, my thought is put it right where I'm at because I don't want to live.
Yeah.
I don't want to live through it.
Yeah.
Would you travel abroad right now? Would you leave the country?
Yeah. I'm not scared of. I wouldn't go to Dubai.
Right.
I was in Ethiopia about a few weeks ago. So
Where can people find you, Mario?
on YouTube is at Minecco 64 and also on X at Minecco 64.
It's hard to stay away from this right now, right? I mean,
Mm.
it I don't know if amazing is the appropriate word, but it's an amazing or incredible time to be talking about this stuff, with people like you and others, because it's just I can't believe the world we're in, and I don't see it stopping anytime soon.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're like the fourth turning they call it, and we're like in the late 1930s, before everything kicked off. That's the kind of environment um, I've never seen the world as turbulent as it is now.
Well, one last question I want to ask you, in relation to the EU, does the EU are they able to hold together through all this, in your view?
Yeah, I mean, there's two things. There's the European Union and then there's the Euro. And not all countries in the European Union have the euro. Maybe the euro might not hold up, but I think the European Union, yeah, I'm not sure. People have been calling for the collapse of the European Union and the euro for many years, but who knows? Um, yeah, maybe no, maybe the trend is towards decentralization. So yeah, it could be that it would collapse in terms, and that wouldn't really be a bad thing because you just go back to the old, you know, nation states that are already there.
Mario, thanks again for making yourself available. I look forward to continuing to follow your channel, and look forward to the dog being back for the next show.
Okay, thank you. Take
Mike,
care.
Mike drop.